I said this has just happened. This is 4 weeks ago.
4 weeks ago this morning.
Dawn's
That was the last time I saw her.
ex-husband came to pick up their 5-year-old daughter, Anjanette,
Yes.
for what was supposed to be a weekend visitation with her.
Yes.
So Dawn kissed the little girl goodbye and planned to pick her up the next day. That was not to be. That morning, her ex-husband kidnapped Anjanette and vanished without a trace. Dawn hasn't seen her daughter since. I know this is extremely difficult. It would be for me. Tell me about your relationship with the child's father.
Actually, I met him on spring break. It was kind of a whirlwind. He's a very charismatic man, can make you believe a lot of things.
And you married him, and he became violent, and you decided to get the divorce.
Yes.
Now, after you got divorced, did you have any suspicion? You had a child with him.
Yes.
Child was how old when you got divorced?
She was 2. Just after she turned 2, we separated.
Did you have any suspicion that he might try to do something to hurt you or to get the child?
He had always said that he would take her and disappear and go back to Arizona.
He did say that.
He had said that right from the start, that he would do it. He didn't have the means to at first, so I wasn't too worried about it. Then he had a steady job, so I knew as long as he was working, the chances were fairly slim.
But this is a man who, after you're divorcing him or while you're divorcing him, is telling you, I'm going to kidnap your child.
Yes.
Okay. Why would you let the child see the father if he's telling you this?
Because the court system supports the right of a father to know who their children are, and it doesn't matter what I do, I would have to have proved physical or sexual abuse against him to have gotten him to have no rights.
Did you ever try to go to the court and say, this man is threatening to take my child?
I told him that right from the beginning.
The court said he still has rights to visit the child.
He still has a right. He hasn't done anything illegal. Therefore,
so we
they
can do nothing to him. You have to give the child to your husband?
That's right.
On every weekend?
He saw her every other weekend and some days in between.
Did you think he'd do it?
I wasn't too concerned about it right away. And then the last few months, Jeanette would come home and say, does your car know how to get to New York? And she would ask if my car knew how to get to Arizona. And, you know, I always assured her that, yes, I knew how to get there and things like that. But these were not things coming from her. They were coming from him to scare me.
What is this thing about Arizona?
That's where I met him, and that's where he lived for 10, 15 years.
Where do you live now?
I live in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. So you are getting funny feelings from your daughter.
Yeah.
Did you take any precautions?
I tried to let the guardian ad litem know what she was saying. At court. I let the judge know when we went in, because we were in and out of court constantly with visitation changes, and he didn't believe he was getting to see her, and I didn't believe that it was okay as much as he wanted to see her. It was a very hard thing going back and forth into court.
Now, Anjanette is how old?
She turned 5.
This is Abby. Now, Abby's child is 10 years old. Name is Sam, and he has been missing for 2 months. He went for his weekend visitation with his father, Steve. On that Monday morning, the father was supposed to have dropped Sam off at camp. Sam was nowhere to be found. Before we hear about that terrible day, Dawn had an idea this might happen. Did you have any idea this might happen? No. Not a clue.
Not a clue.
Out of the blue, nothing. Was he angry about anything?
He was angry that I wanted a divorce. He was angry because he kept losing jobs and getting fired. He blamed everything on all his failures. He blamed on me.
You were responsible for everything. Tell me about the day he was kidnapped.
After work, I went to the Y where Sam was to be dropped off after camp, and usually he would go and play basketball and wait for me till I got there. And so I went into the Y and went to the basketball court, and he wasn't there. I thought he might have gone swimming, so I went there to see if he was there, and he wasn't.
Now, how long have you been divorced?
Since we've been separated since March of '94 and divorced since May of '96.
So this father has taken this child
On a regular basis.
on a regular basis every
Yes,
weekend or every other weekend, and nothing has been done since '94, and suddenly pop out. No wonder you were surprised.
Yes.
When you realized the child wasn't there at the Y, what'd you do?
Well, they called the camp to make sure, to find out if he was there or not.
And he never went to camp?
He never was dropped off. And then I called his apartment, and there was no answer. It was the answering machine. And so I called the police to go over there just to see if he was there, and there was no one there. And then I called my ex-husband's family, and they didn't know anything. And then
Are they covering up for him, or do they not know anything?
I don't know. I hope not, but
Why would he do it?
I'm not sure. I can only speculate that he wanted to get
Back at you?
back at me, or
Where would you think he'd go with the child?
I don't know. That's the frightening part. I don't know.
You have no idea. Did he have a job that he had to quit?
He left his job. He had only had the job for a short time. He left his job. He could be anywhere.
Anywhere in the United States? Anywhere?
Anywhere.
Did he have a lot of money with him?
Yes. He cashed in all of my son's savings, all of his investments for college. And he took it all.
And she has a 6-year-old son, Hatam, who was abducted. This is 18 months ago, since you've seen your son.
Yes.
So he was 4.5?
At the time, he was 4.5.
And he has been taken to Saudi Arabia. Now, the only thing you can hold on to is an audio tape of his last phone call that he made to his grandparents, the child, at 4.5. Listen to this.
Hello? Hello, could I speak to Little Hunter, please? This is Grandpa. Hey? Hello? Who is this? Who's that? Who is that? Is this Little Hunter? Yeah. Huh? How are you, baby? This is Paw. This is Paw in Little Rock. You doing all right? Now don't hang up. Here she is. Hi, Hunter. Hunter, I love you, sweetheart, and I miss you. What are you doing? Talk to Grandma. Are you still there? You are? Uh-huh. Well, bless you. Huh? I'm gonna go over there. You want, when you get finished, you want to come over here? Yeah. Yeah, well, honey, you'll have to get your daddy to talk about that. He's the one that did all this. And see, there's an ocean between us, and we've got no way to come over there. And they wouldn't let us anyway, so your daddy's going to have to bring you back over. I'm flying my airplane. Yeah, I know. You'd have to fly in an airplane over here. They won't let us come over there. And that's the truth.
I know, Jennifer, how hard it is to hear your son's voice knowing he's that far away. Let me ask you a question. Why would your ex-husband have the child call home?
At first, they were letting me talk to him.
Who's they? Your ex-husband's family?
Their family.
Okay.
But after the day that happened, after that, they never let me talk to him again.
They're afraid the child might say where he is.
They just said that I was upsetting him when I talked to him. I mean,
Sure.
Of course he's going to be upset.
Is he from Saudi Arabia?
Yes, he's from Saudi Arabia.
You met him in college, and he was a college student living in the United States? And you were married 3 years. You have the one son. You were divorced in 1993, and the court gave you on August the 14th of this year?
Yes.
Margaret came home expecting to see her daughter after the daughter's weekend visitation with her father. Instead, there was a message from her ex-husband on the answering machine. Now, we have that audio message. Please listen to this.
Hey, Margaret, how you doing? This is Abdul Wasif. We are calling from Saudi Arabia, me and Binti, and she said hi. I'll make a deal. If you want to have communication with your daughter, inshallah, in the future, you drop all the charges. I don't need no bothering when I come here to stay. And I'll call you sometime in the future. Goodbye.
Okay, now, that phone call was the beginning of Margaret and Don's nightmare because their 5-year-old daughter has been kidnapped by her biological father. Margaret hasn't seen her daughter since August the 14th of this year. Let me understand something. He called you, he says, I've snatched your child. She's in Saudi Arabia. And by the way, I thought mostly there were boys that were taken for Saudi Arabia because girls have so little status in many countries, many Arab countries. But he said if you drop charges, he will bring her back to you?
I don't think he intends to bring her back.
He just wants you to drop charges and doesn't have intent to bring her back.
I
for further
think
communications.
So. I think he wants to come back to the United States and be free and clear.
And give you back the child or keep the child here?
Oh, he'll probably keep her there.
Oh, he will return and keep the child there. But you don't know because he never called you back.
He never called me back.
Okay. Now, why did he take the child?
Well, there were several reasons. First of all, the charges he was talking about, I believe, had to do with child support. He owed $12,000 in back child support, and the child support enforcement people had been after him to pay up, or I guess they told him that he could go to jail, and he was afraid he was going to be picked up. Another reason is that she was not being raised Islamic, and he felt that over there she could be. And that was one of his main gripes.
So he's had the child for a month.
Yeah.
And some. What does the State Department, what do they do? How do you get your child back?
State Department won't get my child back.
Who will get you? What do they say when you ask them?
They can do a welfare and whereabouts check. There's an officer there that's supposed to go and try to contact the family. We did give them some phone numbers we had over there. They are supposed to locate the family, but my ex-husband is not required to go and even talk to the Saudi government or the State Department if he chooses not to.
Do you happen to know either of the two of Training Unlimited? It sounds like you're going to train accountants or office workers. And he has his own company, Zamora and Associates. However, what does this company, Corporate Training Unlimited, CTU, do?
Primarily what I do is I'm an international security consultant. That means that I travel internationally, security matters. Can range anything from training bodyguards to training security staff to doing security surveys of offices, buildings, and residences. I've worked with oil companies in Colombia, Central America, other countries in South America. I branched off 3 years ago, started my own company called Zamora and Associates, and I specialize in recovering children in non-custodial abductions.
Okay. And you have what kind of a success rate?
At this point, I have recovered 8 children internationally from 8 different countries, and I have a 100% success rate.
Now, when you say 100% success rate, what does recovering a child in a non-custodial situation involve?
Primarily, it involves tracking the child and the movement of the parent, the kidnapper, going to the geographical location, the country, going into that location, doing an analysis and a survey of the geographical area, and formulating a plan to conduct a surveillance. At that point, we want to verify that the child is actually there and the person we're looking at is the child. I do that with video, photography, night vision equipment, usually whatever it takes. Once I've got everything laid on and I know where I'm going to go, what we're going to do, how we're going to recover the child, I bring one of the parents in because they have to physically be there to take charge of that child.
Now, what do we do about our guest who gave $35,000 in 1976? She had a 13-month-old daughter that was abducted by her ex-husband, who was from Mexico, and her child was away from her for 4.5 years till she found and got her child back. She paid $21,000 to the Mexican government to get her child back. So yes, these governments can be paid off. Her daughter is now 22 years old. What has this done? What are the remnants of this in her personality, having been taken from you for 4.5 years?
Well, I think she, like a lot of other children that were victims of parental abduction, most suffered some form of post-traumatic stress disorder. For when she first came home, she did not know me on any conscious level. At some level, she thought I was her kidnapper. She's brought into a new environment, trying to identify who are really her parents, trying to speak a new language, adjusting to a new culture.
It leaves its mark.
It leaves its mark. It has long-term ramifications for
Is
her
there
and others.
anything our parents can do to find their children on stage?